Um, so today, there was kind of a powerful event that happened in rehearsal that it's sort of one of these things where, long story short, we had made some changes after a run the other day. We'd proposed some changes. Actually, Katie had proposed them, and they were really smart changes. And we spent yesterday discussing them and implementing them. And today we staged them and ran them to see what it feels like. And the effect was stunning. It was like an explosion going off. The room was just vibrating at the end, and the director, who's a genius at identifying the sort of emotional heartbeat, the emotional pulse of a show, pointed that out and specifically said, feel where your heart is right now, feel where you are emotionally, and feel the difference between this and what we had before. And it was just such a vivid recognition of the fact that this was that these changes were right, and that these changes were tapping into something deeper. And it was a major thing, and it was like, so what came, several little lessons seemed to be piling in as I went through the experience. One of which is, it's so remarkable how a creative piece can be a direct portal into a kind of different dimension, a different dimension of energy. And one of the ways that we tap into that, one of the ways we feel that energy is by just noticing what happens in our body, what happens in our heart, what happens to us emotionally. It's really an amazing thing that we receive messages from this other dimension through the project. And it's just so cool. This is an experience I've had a number of times, where when you're tinkering with something, you're playing with it, you're trying it out, and then you get it right, and it's just like a lock and a key, and the whole thing just blows open to another level, and it's absolutely undeniable. It's absolutely, there is no question. And you immediately stop thinking about it. That's one of the signs, is you stop wondering. There's no more thinking. It's just, this is it. It's an experience of just like truth beyond the literal. And that was the experience today. That's what had happened. That's what happened in the room. And so one of the things that I find so exciting about this is, on the heels of my last couple days of posts, where I've been looking at where I go when I think there's an obstacle to that, where I go when I come up against something that seems to be obstructing that. And I've talked a little bit about, like, I'll go to a place where I think there's something to defeat, or someone to defeat, or some, even if it's not a person, it's like a set of circumstances or something where my energy, my emotional energy goes to a place of like, I want to, I don't know. It's not so much like dominating the thing. It's more like exercising the problem, exercising the demon, and recognizing over the last couple days when I go there, that's not really very helpful. That doesn't really take me. That's not the energy or the approach that renders the kind of result that I was talking about today. And as soon as I let go, as soon as I said to myself, what if there's nothing to defeat? What if there's no one to defeat? It was like the door opened and the conversation happened and this thing happened and bam, all of a sudden, the opening 20, 30 minutes of the show just unlocked. So that was cool to see. That in a lot of ways, because I had already felt very much like the realization that I had yesterday and the day before was sort of like it had come to fruition in the sense that the door had opened and the conversation was moving. But then to see today and to be in the room today as it just creates that undeniable, completely unquestionable sense of this is right now, that was just really fun to witness. Really, really exciting to witness. So that was part of the day. It was just a great day all around. I also got to construct a piece, sort of like a found instruments piece, and duplicating something that the composer had written, but also kind of improvising on it and playing around with it, and which was again just a blast. It was just a really fun day. And I was reminded though in sort of finishing up the day, and then Katie and I had a beautiful walk home. I was reminded of something that I read in Jack Vertelli's book. He wrote a book called The Secret Life of the American Musical. How Broadway Shows Are Built is the subtitle, and talks all about how a show, it talks about the logic, the emotional logic and the storytelling logic of a musical, which is just dramatically different than the storytelling logic of really any other medium, because the core of the story resides in the songs. That doesn't mean that the plot resides in the songs, but that he actually uses the term song plot, as in like the sequencing of the songs, and the song plot is what is the emotional journey that we go on over the course of the show, and it's completely contingent on the songs themselves. The book scenes and the writing and the dialogue scenes are really, really, really secondary to that in terms of what we ultimately experience as an audience, and the main job of the book writer, which in this case I am one of them, is to get out of the way. Let that song plot carry the audience where they need to be carried to. And that it's incredibly important writing that happens in between, but it's not where the story resides. It's not where the audience's experience of the show resides. So we have to recognize that in the creation process. And in this book, one of the other things he talks about is there's a beautiful way that he talks about you're building. It's like when you're creating a musical, you're building a high functioning machine, an incredibly intricate, incredibly high performing machine. And you have to think of it like that. He talks about like the mechanics, like the kind of mechanical approach. There's a mechanics to the emotional journey, and which is of course inextricable from the song plot. But there's a moment. He says in the great musicals that machine comes alive and becomes an animal and starts moving of its own accord, and that was what I felt today. I felt the show, I felt our show come alive. It was like, oh, now it's running us. Now it was like it was driving the room. Whereas before we had been playing the songs and doing everything excellently if I do say so. Like, not just me, but everybody was doing their job excellently. Really, the music sounded great, everything was great, but it wasn't alive until today. And when it comes alive, you are done thinking about it. You are not. It's like you just know. And that really, really struck me today. I really felt that. I really felt that moment of life coming into the show, and all of a sudden the musicians are playing differently. The song means something different. The songs have it was like just getting. It was like all of a sudden riding on a horse, and the horse. I don't know. It's a weird image, but like you're riding a mechanical bull, and then all of a sudden it's a live bull, and it runs, and you're like running through town on this live animal, not in control anymore. That's the thing about a musical. A musical is, at its best, not that under control. It taps into a part of us that is not rational. You know, a musical is not trying to satisfy the rational part of our mind. It's trying to reach in there with emotion and just push a button in us that where we come to life in a different way, and we come to life. Our emotional system is temporarily hijacked by this thing because it taps into such a deep part of us that now all we can do is hang on for the ride. That's what I started to feel today, and it's really exciting. That's, the rest of the show still needs work to be able to continue that journey. But man, if you can get through the first 3 songs of a show and that's where people are, and I know the 4th song is a great one, is a home run, you're in a good place. And that's really fun. It's really exciting to be there. So. And the larger lesson that I take from all this is just, which is kind of the first thing I said, but it's like there's a higher energy, there's a higher thing that you can't even rationally access. You can't even really rationally find it. You have to tap into it. You have to allow it to play you, allow it to seize you, surrender to it. So my action of stepping away from this notion of defeat, or from the notion of conflict, was exactly what I needed to do to be able to be a part of letting this event today happen. There's a lot of other parts to that and a lot of other people, but that action to me makes perfect sense, and it is very connected to what I then subsequently experienced. So very cool, very exciting, and I'm ready for a good night's sleep. Long day. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate you so much. This conversation means the world to me, as you know. I can't wait to see you again very soon.